Mark Skaar on the Skaar Kaard on 103.7 The Fox. Proud to welcome in Mike Cross from MC Rhodes. Mike, welcome.
Hey, Mark. Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be on.
Mike's been on our radar for a little while with MC Rhodes. Been playing Call It What You Want and Smile Like a Knife on the show. And I thought I'd bring Mike on to talk a little bit more about the band. Now, well, let's start with the name of the band. Where did that come from?
It was a kind of an innocent conversation. You know, we were at a rehearsal and we were throwing out names here. And one of the guys said, hey, why don't you call it Mike Cross Rhodes? You know, because we were kind of throwing around blues ideas and this and that. And, you know, these guys know my story a little bit. And, you know, I thought, well, I'm not, you know, I don't consider myself a blues guitarist, so to speak. I mean, I have some influence. But, you know, there's some legitimate guys in town here in Michigan and all around that's their thing. So it sounds a little bluesy, but, you know, I went home later after rehearsal, and I tend to record all the rehearsals on my iPhone here, and started thinking about it. And I don't know, sometime that night, the words MC Rhodes kind of came out, and I kind of liked the sound of it. I've always liked band names that maybe sound a little different, but don't really tie you down to any certain style, but then again do, you know. And so this one had a little bit of a story behind it, and I like the way it sounds.
So you have an EP coming out called No Nostalgia. Tell me a little bit about these songs.
Yeah, so, I mean, really the whole thing started with a group of songs. You know, it was my venture into what I wanted to do next. You know, Sponge, that band was very much of a group effort, and things kind of fell off the track a little bit just in terms of how I had my vision for the band. And so I guess what I've been doing for, you know, out of the scene so much is just kind of focusing on, well, what do I want to do next? And one of the things I wanted to do next is make sure that creative control stays with me. And the best way to do that is to not only write the music, but sing the music as well. And I know there's other situations that work where the singer, the guitar player, everybody is, you know, in sync. But for me, it was really important to find a vocal sound, work for a vocal sound that worked for the songs that I write and my guitarist kind of efforts as well. So that's kind of how that came about.
Talking with Mike Cross from MC Rhodes. So let's break down the songs we've heard. First of all, the first thing we heard was Call It What You Want.
So Call It, to me, it was the perfect single to release and say, hey, this is how Mike Cross sings. This is kind of the band's, or at least my early influences, you know, the Southern style harmony type guitars. And lyrically, it's kind of a fun song. It's about a relationship that kind of has its twists and turns like everybody has. But originally, that song was called Shallow Grave. On the early tapes, on the early studio sessions, I just named it Shallow Grave. And as we got closer to releasing it, I thought, well, that's maybe just a bit morbid for what I want to do. And thinking it was going to be the first single, I thought, well, call it what you want. Here we are, MC Rhodes, call it what you want.
And then Smile Like a Knife is the other track we heard.
So Smile Like a Knife, more of a personal song, and kind of like the good old You Done Me Wrong type song, kind of like a real journeyman style You Done Me Wrong type song. And just kind of relates to some of my experiences in the music, things not being what you think they are, those kinds of things. I'm sure everybody's been through a situation like that, but to make it short, the song's really about betrayal, and I think it speaks for itself.
Talking with Mike Cross from MC Rhodes. And Mike, how did you get involved with Golden Robot Records?
Well, initially, the cool thing about today, you know, kind of coming back to doing my own thing, I originally had thought, well, a lot of these artists are just putting out their own music, and for me, that was like the perfect avenue, because I really wasn't trying to compare myself to the old band. I wasn't really trying to, you know, make any kind of statement. I was just wanted to put my music out there, and kind of going on Facebook, and I started looking at an enormous task of getting this stuff all set up digital, and the amount of networking I would need to do that. Around that time, I'm kind of fishing around on Facebook and stuff, and I come across an artist that was signed to Golden Robot Records, and he spoke quite highly, you know, in some of his posts about how happy he was there, and I checked out their website. So it was just like a simple inquiry, like, you guys are artist friendly. It seems like you really stand behind your artists. So I sent a email kind of inquiry. And wouldn't you know it, I got an email back from the CEO and founder of Golden Robot Records, and he was like, hey, send me the music. I'm kind of familiar with who you are and stuff, but let me hear some music. And I'm like, well, you don't have to ask me twice. So I emailed him some tracks, and I don't know, probably a week goes by, and I got a call from him personally from Australia. We had a really nice conversation about his take on my music, and he seemed passionate about his artist, and he seemed like he got what I was trying to do. So I thought, well, that's a good start, so let's give that a try. And so things happened pretty quick after that.
Talking with Mike Cross, so how did you put a band together, and tell me who's in the band?
I always like the sound of two guitar players. I've always been in two guitar player bands, and so the thing I was really looking for was my brother guitarist, like I've had in my previous acts. And so Bobby G, I was looking for a piece of music gear, and he happened to be selling it. So again, through Facebook, that's how things work these days. But so I kind of drive over his house, and we were haggling about a studio desk that he was selling, and he wouldn't give up that extra $10. So I go, well, okay, so this guy's got some cuts. And then, we started talking music, and he was a guitar player, and he was like, hey, this is what I do. And I'm like, well, I'm a guitar player too, and I could use some help with my project. And I don't know, a few months later, I finally listened to his music, and I go, okay, so he's a real guitar player, had all the right things that I was looking for. So I gave him a shout, and he's been in. So since then, Rick Latta is the original bassist I used on all the demos, so that was a logical fit for me. Duro Poor is a drummer that came through as a referral through Bobby, and he fits nicely. And probably the one with the least experience is KK, who is our background vocalist, and she really hasn't done any performing professionally or anything like that, but boy, she's got the heart, so that was kind of like the last pick there.
And you have an EP called No Nostalgia. Where did that name come from?
So No Nostalgia actually started off kind of a little bit personal, as the songs developed and the mixes and everything like that, I really liked the sound of it. And really the meaning for me is, hey, let's go carve our own path. And I totally appreciate all the things that, I've been involved with in the past. Grateful for, all the influences. I can go from Jimi Hendrix, Joe Perry, Billy Gibbons, all of that stuff is just so cool. But, I have an opportunity to kind of just do my own thing, carve out my own little path. And if people dig it, that's cool. So it was kind of like a statement saying, I'm not relying on anything in the past, but I'm grateful for it. But at the same time, people tell me that the music, they've always told me this, that the music sounds a little bit nostalgic, but then again, not. So I just thought it was the two words that I thought really kind of labeled the 5 songs that are on it.
Mike, if people want to know more about MC Rhodes, how can they go about doing it?
Easy way to find us, we have a bio at Golden Robot Records, and then it's _ MC Rhodes. They have a lot of cool artists you can check out as well. If you want to find us on our socials, it's an easy way to follow us. Facebook, The MC Rhodes, so facebook.com @The MC Rhodes, and then our Instagram account is MC_Rhodes, so we're pretty easy to find there as well.
Got to have all the necessary stuff there. So, Michael, I want to thank you for talking to us about the new project, and best of luck going forward. I can't wait to see what's next.
Hey, Mark, thanks so much for the support and having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
From Mike Cross of MC Rhodes, I'm Mark Skaar on the Skaar Kaard on 103.7 The Fox.
Summer drive, it's just getting dark. He's on his way to Nevada, and you know that his car won't start. And that was the beginning of the end for them. Such a tragedy, or was it free? She's so simple, he's so complicated. Oh, disaster never slowed down to make it last. And are they reflections reflections of old stolen love, stolen love. Tough breaks of the losing kind, you need to live to the wild side. She's appealing and sensitive to the underdog of the rebel cause, and that was the beginning of the end for them. Was it meant to be a mistake? She's so easy, he's always frustrated. For disaster, never slow down to make it last. And are they reflections of old stolen love, stolen love? Everything is moving faster, now it's too late to turn back. And are they reflections of old stolen love, stolen love? Such a tragedy, or was it fate? It's a dead end rider and nowhere highway headed for disaster. Never slow down to make it last. And are they reflections of old stolen love, stolen love? Everything is moving faster, now it's too late to turn back. And reflections of old stolen love, stolen love. Reflections of old stolen love, reflections of old stolen love.
From the just-released EP, No Nostalgia, that is MC Rhodes and the Skaar Kaard with Stoned in Love. My thanks to Mike Cross from MC Rhodes for being our guest tonight on the show. Coming up, more of the new classic rock that rocks from the Georgia Thunderbolts, Dirty Honey, Electric Revival, and the Cruzados next on The Fox.